Alrighty, so I've just got back home from ground hopping earlier this evening, which is why this review is uploaded a little bit later than anticipated, and it's pretty much getting to a point where I'll probably publish this video and schedule it to tomorrow morning, because there's no point in terms of me uploading this video and basically upload it at around 3 in the morning, because I don't want to wake anybody up that, of course, turned notification on my channel and then realize that, oh, I uploaded a video and it's like 3 in the morning or 6 in the morning, depending on where you are in the country. Or, if you're in Europe, maybe that's perfect timing because it is daytime and it is afternoon timing. But certainly with the way that the demographics of my channel and the viewers of my channel are mostly from the US and here in North America, yeah, it won't be pleasant for anyone that gets notification like at 6 in the morning when I release a new video. But today I'm going to do part 1 in terms of the review of this match week, and I'm going to do something that I did a lot last season, which is I split the review into 2 parts. And today I'm going to look at the 8 games that happened today, and the 8 games that I either watched partially or I actually watched the full game that happened, because since there was like 10 games that was happening between the 7:30 p.m. Eastern and 4:30 p.m. Pacific time slot, I can only do as much as possible. Well, actually, did I say 10 games? It was more like there was like 6 games, but then once you have the other games that kicks off about 30 minutes later, then yeah, that's why it kind of adds into 10 games. But let us actually begin with the first one, which is the Chicago Fire versus FC Dallas. Now, I did also ground hop this afternoon, so I actually watched the second half of this game when I finished ground hop, but then I did go back to watch the first half of this game, and let's just say that, yeah, it was not a great idea that I did that, because, oh boy, this was really tough to watch. And, if you did watch the full 90 minutes on Twitter along with what I did, yeah, I definitely want to send you some condolence, because there was really not much that happened in this game, and that I even kind of wrote it right near the end of the second half that it seemed like this game is bound to end 0-0. Now, in the first half, there was actually some chances for FC Dallas. Quignon hits one wide from close range the 3rd minute before Hara hits it wide from 10 yards out. And I thought Dallas did start the first half as the better team. Orion then puts it high from close range before there was definitely some concern for Fire fans when they saw Shaqiri had to be subbed off of what could be a hamstring injury that he has. And, knowing Shaqiri that has had a history of injuries, yeah, this is definitely not a good sign, and let's hope that he's going to be okay, because he's definitely a big part of the Chicago Fire team. Navarro then had the first chance for the Fire, but he puts it high from 22 yards out. There was a huge shot for a penalty for Chicago, as Herberts thought that he was brought down by Quignon, but it was not given. The Fire did start to control this game a little bit, but they were having a little success in the final third, and that would kind of be the story for the rest of this game, because as we head to the second half scoreless, after Seglish Fire one wide from close range, again, the Fire has a lot of possession, but they just could not break down this Dallas defense. And this Dallas defense did well in this one, but it was kind of mostly the fact that the Fire just kind of ran out of ideas, and especially without Shaqiri in there, you just kind of sense that they were a little bit lackluster going forward on the attack. Velasco with a volley from close range in the 68th minute. That was probably one of the best opportunity, because Velasco was open in the back post, and yeah, the caliber of him, and especially the form that he's been in, you would expect him to put that one into the back of the net. But as the time winds down, like I said earlier, it looked like more and more like this was going to end 0-0. Dallas was starting to drop their lines, and it seems like they were playing for a 0-0, while Chicago, no doubt that they were trying to get a 1-0 win, but you just kind of sense that they just don't have enough firepower on the attack to do so. The visitor actually got the last chance with Nanu hits one straight to Salina, but yeah, in the end, in a game that it looked like it was bound to end 0-0, did end 0-0, as the shots in this one, only 9 shots compared to just 5 that Dallas had, so 14 shots combined for both of these teams. I mean, there are some games where we even see one team actually had even more shots than the combined that we've seen in this one. Only 1 shot on goal apiece for both of these teams. 6 shots off target for the 3 that Dallas had. 2 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Dallas had. And possession-wise, 50% possession for both of these teams. Now, the good news for the Fire is that they are still unbeaten, and that they are now only one of the 3 unbeaten teams that is left in the league, after we saw 2 more teams that had their unbeaten record comes to an end after tonight. But you got a sense that, some of the Fire fans, I mean, I know they're still happy with this good start under Ezra Henriksen, but they are probably a little bit frustrated the fact that, this is now the 3rd 0-0 draw that they had in the last 5 games. And if you're going to attract fans, getting 0-0 draw every single game is not going to help the factor. But if you're Dallas, I think they'll take it. I mean, anytime when you can get points on the road, and anytime when Dallas always tends to have trouble in terms of playing on the road, if they can get a point on the road, it will definitely be a bonus, even if they didn't play well in this game either. But moving on, in terms of the next one, is Toronto and NYCFC. So I talked about this game alongside with the Minnesota versus Seattle game, where it seems like the hosts are the benefit of them playing an MLS team that has to play in a CCL game, and it seems like that team is going to rest a lot of their starters. Well, it turns out that was not the case, and that also was not in the case when I talk about the Minnesota versus Seattle game a little bit later. But unlike in terms of that game that I'll talk about a little bit later, Toronto actually kind of take advantage of the sweepstake, in that, what's even more impressive about this win for TFC is that, again, they were playing against a very strong NYCFC team, and that, it seemed like Ronald Delia is elected to not really rest any of his starters in this game, and yet they still come away with no points out of this one. Though there was definitely some controversy in this game, and this is something that I actually just found out that, first of all, there was no penalty that was given to NYCFC after VAR deemed that Magno was not fouled by Thompson. Now, from what I heard a little bit later, is that it seems like Ronnie Delia didn't mention the referee actually admitted that he made a mistake in terms of looking at and overturning that call. And there was actually 2 different angles that they show on the TSN feed. There was one angle that it looked like it was pretty clear that Magno basically tripped himself, but then there was also the other angle where it definitely clearly see that Thompson basically fouled Magno in the box. And as I mentioned, Ronnie Delia mentioned that the referee admit that he made a mistake there, and he says that there was only one angle that he looked at, and I can probably bet that angle that he looked is probably the first one where I talk about how in one angle it definitely looked like Magno basically tripped himself. But this is just basically the continuation of the frustration of VAR use in MLS. And, I don't really want to talk too much about it, because I feel like I've been talking about this every single time, and I always hate that I have to reiterate. But when something is not clear and obvious, don't overturn it. And it just feels like now a lot of these referees, especially from pro, are just not getting the memo. And that this is why we're still getting this incident where there's sometimes when things are clear and obvious, sometimes it's overturned, but it also kind of depends on who exactly is going to be in charge of VAR, and that's just terrible in the sense that, you can have one VAR crew think that is going to be a call that's worthy to overturn, and then you might have the same incident, and the other crew will say, well, we're not going to overturn it because we don't think it's clear and obvious. And what I'm basically saying is that I hate the fact that judgment call is basically what determine these VAR call, and it's no wonder why we always have these inconsistent issue with VAR being used in MLS. But besides that, just a couple of minutes later, Bono was able to deny Magno not only once but twice in the near post. Then he denied Castellanos, who was through on goal, and I would have thought that Tati Castellanos was going to put that one in, because we know he is definitely a guy that is in a good form. Though I will say that Tati Castellanos this season, in terms of his CCL form, he's been incredible. But when you look at his league form, it's actually not been great whatsoever. In fact, I don't think he actually have scored a goal in the league. So that's kind of weird to see how in CCL he turns to be an absolute monster, and a guy that is no wonder he's going to sell for big amount of money when he does move on to Europe. But when you look at his league form, I'm pretty sure NYCFC is trying to hide that to any buyers in in Europe right now that want to get Tati Castellanos during the summer transfer window. But there was no doubt that NYCFC was pressing for the opener, but instead it's Toronto that gets the opening goal in this one, and it's Jesus Jimenez, another guy that I feel like he has started to become very underrated and really kind of fly under the radar because of how he has really been a good goal scorer for this TFC team and pretty much are always on the score sheet. And here he scored from Osorio to give TFC a 1-0 lead, really kind of against the run of play because I thought NYCFC were the better team up to that point. And then just 12 minutes later, it would be 2-0 in favor of the host as Thiago unfortunately score an own goal here to give TFC a 2-0 lead, and that has to be a backbreaker for NYCFC because they were the better team for the majority of the first half, and then they gave up 2 goals, including one that is not only an own goal, but right on the stroke of halftime, and all of a sudden they find themselves 2-0 down heading into the second half. Now in the second half, they had a chance to make it 2-1 when Maxi Morales had a shot that was actually deflected, but somehow it actually gone straight to Bono. I mean, whenever a shot is deflected, goalkeeper usually has to scramble to kind of readjust himself to make a save. But this one wasn't really deflected in such a way where Bono really need to readjust himself, and he can easily claim that one. Though he did have to deny Parks from long range in the 56th minute, and then Parks hits one straight to Bono, as I thought NYCFC once again was throwing the kitchen sink and looking to try to get one back. Bono then denied Parks again from long range before on the other end, Johnson had to deny Petrasso and a rare TFC chance because up to that point it was pretty one-way traffic for NYCFC, and you would think that they would get a goal back. But then that chance that Petrasso had, little did we know that that was a chance for TFC to realize that they've got to score this third goal because they know that if NYCFC make this a 2-1 game, it could set up a very frantic last 10 minutes. Though they had an opportunity in the 80th minute after Johnson had a very unconvincing save on Brantley's shot. Like, he allowed a huge rebound, which he is fortunate that he got away with it. And I even wrote, he looked really shaky with him just kind of spilling those shots that was coming in, or anytime when he's trying to catch a cross, he just kind of spills it. Peroza then blasts one high from 14 yards out in the first minute of stoppage time. Toronto was no doubt looking for a third to put the cherry on the top. But then in the second minute of stoppage time, NYCFC did long last get their goal back. But, by then it was a little bit too late because there was only 3 minutes of stoppage time. And it's Hebert scoring from Morales and Thiago to give a consolation for NYCFC. And, that has to be great. It has to feel good for Hebert to finally get on the score sheet. Consider I talked about how he's becoming one of the most cursed number 9 in the league, and let's just hope that goal can really start to get him going. Though the last time I said that, literally the next game he basically suffered a torn ACL, so let's hope he doesn't suffer the same fate once again in this one. But like I said, that was more of just a consolation goal because in the end TFC were able to win 2-1 in this one. And the shots in this one, 8 shots compared to 15 that NYCFC had, 8 shots on goal compared to 3 that TFC had, 3 shots off target for the 4 that NYCFC had, 3 shots that was blocked for the 2 that NYCFC, or 2 that Toronto has, and possession-wise, NYCFC had the better possession, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that Toronto has in this game. And the other thing that I want to say that is impressive, that TFC was able to knock off NYCFC in this game is that they really kind of started a makeshift back line and started a couple of youngsters in this game. And usually when you start some youngsters in a game, it can work out sometimes, and it sometimes can backfire you, but it definitely work out this time. And I know Bob Bradley, he is a guy that it's kind of unusual that he is starting to give some of his youngster a chance, because I don't recall he did the same thing when he was with LAFC. But I guess knowing the fact that some of his main core guys is really not cutting it for this team, I think he is trying to give some of these young guys a try, because there's really nothing to lose. Like, if these young guys doesn't work out, then he knows that there's definitely some serious thing that he needs to do in the summer transfer window to address the issue that this TFC team had. But right now, some of these young guys have worked out, and maybe this could be the beginning where TFC will continue to play some of these youngster and continue to get some resort, because after that slow start to the season, they're starting to get themselves back into playoff contention in the Eastern Conference. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is Cincinnati versus Montreal. So it seemed like whenever Cincinnati play against Montreal, we either get a game where nothing really happens, two games that everything happened. And it seemed like in this one, everything happened, and defense also seems to decide to take a day off in terms of how this game turns out. Because in the first half, the goal scoring bonanza started in the 12th minute as Brandon Vasquez would score again to give Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. I think it's the 5th goal that Brandon Vasquez has scored in the last 4 games. And again, he could have scored more if he is a little bit more clinical in some of those games where he missed some big opportunity. And again, one of them was that last game against Charlotte where he had a lot of opportunity that, if he was a little bit more clinical, he would have maybe be the Golden Boot leader heading into match week number 7. Though Khan did had to deny Kone from long range in the 16th minute, though Montreal did get the tie and go, and it's Mihajlovic scoring from Miller to tie the game up at 1 apiece. The tie wouldn't last long because 3 minutes later, unfortunately, Johnston scored an own goal here, and originally Johnston actually redirect in his own net, and we have seen many times before when defender accidentally redirect to his own net, the goalkeeper usually come up big to prevent that. No such luck this time for Sebastian Breeze. I mean, he did try his best, but unfortunately he wasn't able to keep this one out. And yeah, Cincinnati was back up 2-1 in this one. It was almost 3-1 when Junior Moreno puts it wide from long range, as Cincinnati was pushing for a 3rd goal, but in the 41st minute, Montreal ties it again, and it's Mihajlovic scoring his 2nd goal from Kamara and Wanyama to tie the game up at 2 apiece. And then just a couple of minutes later, they would take the lead. It's Kai Kamara scoring his 1st goal for Montreal from Wanyama to give Montreal a 3-2 lead. And I guarantee you that crowd at TKO Stadium, they knew that this was coming. Like, as much as I know this season there's been some habit that FC Cincinnati has started to turn away, and that there are times that they started to look like a team that isn't going to win the Winspoon for the 4th year in a row. The old saying, old habits die hard, and it seems like that is the case, especially near the end of the first half. But I also thought that this game really started to hit peak MLS level. Like, when you have so many goals that have scored or in a short amount of period, things are going to go off the rail, and it would continue in the second half, because in the second half, a penalty was given to Cincinnati after Camacho brought down Pau in the box, which Acosta was able to put away the penalty, and the game was tied up at 3 apiece. But the game wouldn't be tied for long, because just 6 minutes later, Montreal would retake the lead. It's Torres scoring from Kamara to make it 4-3 in favor of Montreal. It was optional defending from Cincinnati. Like, the way that ball basically crossed into the box, where, first of all, I don't know how in the world did no Cincinnati player able to clear that dangerous ball that was basically put into the box. But also, you got to question who in the world was marking Joaquin Torres here. Like, you cannot let a player like him just get completely unmarked there in the back post. And unsurprisingly, he punished Cincinnati for that bad defensive mistake. And yeah, Montreal were up 4-3 into what has already been a crazy game in this one. Could have been 5-3 in the 75th minute if it wasn't for Khan denying Lapinainen in the front post. But then in the 86th minute, Barrio hits one that hits high from long range before Junior Moreno trying to curl one in, and it was a good curler too. It just missed high there. But there was no doubt that Cincinnati was putting the kitchen sink, while Montreal, they were trying to hold on for dear life. And if you watch Montreal this season, you would not be surprised that they would actually give up this lead. I mean, this also was kind of a game between two teams to see, let's see who can give up the lead first, because we always have a tentative to give up late leads in game. Cameron had a chance to make it 4-4, but he hits that one just wide. But in the end, Montreal, for the first time this season, able to actually hold on to a lead despite being under heavy pressure and finally getting their first win of the season. Shots in this one, 18 shots compared to 9 that Montreal has, 7 shots on goal compared to 6 that Montreal has, 3 shots off target compared to 7 that Cincinnati has, no shots that was blocked compared to 4 that Cincinnati has. Montreal has the better possession, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that FC Cincinnati has in this game. But again, overall, what a crazy game this was, and this is definitely not a game that I don't think either head coach is going to be happy. I mean, at least I think for Wilfried Nancy, he's happy that at least his team didn't capitulate like we've seen throughout the season. But yeah, this is definitely not sustainable if they kind of play it like this, and especially the defense. This defense heading into this season, a lot of people talk about how this was going to be one of the better defense in the league, and so far, at least from what I've seen this season, it just have not lived up to the expectation. But certainly for FC Cincinnati, I mean, I guess if you ask any Cincinnati fans in terms of the pain level after this game, you'll probably say this is kind of like 3 out of 10, because I'm pretty sure they suffer a much more painful loss than what they did in this one. But again, as the old saying goes, old habits die hard, and it seems like Cincinnati still are stuck in this cycle where they just cannot get out of that state of having these kind of games. That is the reason why they won the Wooden Spoon 3 years in a row. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is Columbus versus Nashville. And for Nashville, this was a perfect road game for them. And in some way, a very Nashville-type road game where, they were able to get a goal in this one, and then they just kind of lock it down for the entire game. Now, granted, they did had to pack in a lot of pressure in this game, and Columbus was really knocking on the door, especially in the second half. But ultimately, Nashville survived, and they get a massive 3 points that they kind of desperately needed, since things have not gone well for them ever since they got that opening win against Seattle on opening weekend. Now, in the first half, there was actually a huge shout for a penalty for Nashville that was not given before Willis was able to deny Zaryan as Columbus was pressing for an opener. Oh, by the way, in the beginning, they actually celebrated Federico Higuain's retirement, and there was even an awesome tifo to celebrate of what is probably one of the best midfield and probably one of the most underrated attacking midfield in the league, that is Federico Higuain. So certainly, definitely great to see that, of course, happening. And it's kind of such a shame that in his retirement party, it's been kind of ruined with his team not able to get all 3 points or even get a point out of this one. But there was no doubt that Columbus, as I mentioned, after that save that Willis had, that they were pressing for an opener. And even though Willis did make a good save on Zaryan, I thought he kind of looked shaky early in this game, and there was some sequence where he either spilled a save or the ball that was coming into the box, and he just basically spilled it in the 18-yard box. Then in the 27th minute, there was a huge shout for a penalty, this time for Columbus, that was not given. And then 2 minutes later, Nashville would take the lead. It's Alex Mule scoring from Washington, and actually not Mule here. I got the wrong name here. God, I forgot who, of course, got the secondary assist. Keep in mind, when I was writing the board here, I was also trying to keep an eye on like 3 other games that is going on right now. So apologies if I did make some mistake here in terms of the notes, but I know for sure that Taylor Washington was one of the guys that assisted, and I'll probably might well, actually, I'll just leave it like that as the goal and the assist, because I'm pretty sure in secondary assists, especially in CCL, they don't actually release secondary assists. Only in MLS they actually do that. But yeah, Nashville were up 1-0 up to that point. Room then denied Sapon, who was through on goal, before Mukhtar actually struck the post. And that one, when it struck the right side of the post, it looked like it was going to creep in, and even some of the Nashville players were demanding to look at that in VAR to see whether or not if the ball did cross the line. And when you look at it, I mean, again, there's a couple of angles where it looked like it might have crossed the line, and then there are some angles that it didn't, and that, again, if they did go to VAR, I just hope that they don't make that same mistake that what we saw in that earlier their VAR kind of failure in the game against Toronto and NYCFC. But obviously they didn't go to VAR in this play, and the goal, of course, did not come as a judge on the play that ball did not cross the line. There was then another shout for a penalty for Columbus, as this time Santos felt that he was brought down by Mule in the box. I mean, you can make a case on that, though I feel like it maybe is more of a shoulder to shoulder challenge, but I have seen that one given before, and people kind of complained that it was a very soft penalty. But there was no doubt that Columbus was trying to press for an equalizer late into the first half, but we do head to halftime with Nashville leading 1-0. So we go to the second half, and in the second half, to continue the Pipa Higuain retirement party, they actually invited him in the booth. And usually I'm never a big fan in terms of play-by-play commentator inviting a celebrity in the booth, but this time I'm actually okay with it because I get to hear some of the good stories that Pipa Higuain talks about, and he even kind of mentioned of how it's actually really challenging for him to be coaching, and that it's definitely a completely different animal compared to actually playing on the pitch. But in the 53rd minute, Nagbe fires one high as the Crew continued to press for the equalizer, while Nashville, they were going with their usual bunker and trying to find any counters to double their lead. Leal puts one straight to Eloy Rome, though do we know that actually would be the last chance that Nashville would get, because this is when Columbus really puts on the heat on that Nashville defense. Nagbe puts it high from 20 yards out in the 62nd minute before Willis had to deny Diaz in the front post. The crowd at Lower.com Field, yeah, they were definitely into it. Like, they were trying to will in that equalizer for Columbus. Barry had a free header that missed wide, one that I think he definitely would want back with the way that, it's not often that Miguel Barry wide open in the box and he doesn't bury one. The same goes with Zaharian as he blasted this one wide from long range, and then he even had a better opportunity and a perfect area where from a 22-yard free kick, we know that Lucas Zaharian is probably the most dangerous free kick taker, especially from that distance, but he puts that one wide. Willis then denied Boa in the 77th minute before Zaharian just flashed that one wide, as the shots were now 16-6 in favor of Columbus. But really, as the half goes on, or as the game goes on, Columbus looked like they started to run out of ideas. Like, you can definitely sense that there is some frustration in terms of those Crew players, that it seems like it's just going to be one of those days where their shooting boots is not on point, and indeed that of course is the case, because in the end, Nashville able to survive and get a massive free points in this one by winning 1-0 against Columbus. Shots in this one, 19 shots compared to 6 that Nashville has. 9 shots on goal compared to 3 that Nashville has. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. 4 shots on goal compared to 3 that Nashville has. I look at the wrong stats there. But 9 shots off target for the 2 that Nashville has. 1 shot that was blocked for the 6 that Columbus had. And possession-wise, 67% possession compared to 33% possession that Nashville has in this game. And, like it or hate it, that's how Nashville do play on the road. And this is going to be something that they're going to continue to do under Gary Smith, and that, it's not a big surprise that even in a game where they're just getting completely dominant in the stat chart, if they can nick a goal, that it's almost game over for the opposition, and it's almost a living hell to try to break them down on the other end. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 4 games as part of part 1 of this review. So moving on, in terms of the next match, we got the Quakes versus Austin FC, and I'm not going to lie, the Quakes almost did it again against Austin FC. Remember how they were down 2 goals against Austin back in August, and they were able to score 3 straight goals to win 4-3? They almost did it in this one too, with them going down 2-0 and scoring 2 quick goals in the second half, and even had a bunch of chances in the final 15 minutes to get that 3rd goal, but overall it ends in a 2-2 draw in this one. And in the first half, just like that game back in August, the Quakes were off to a really, really slow start. Mark Sikowski was able to deny Fagundes before he would deny Rain from close range in the 10th minute. Stuver had to make a save on Espinoza, though that goal, even if he didn't make that save, if that one went into the back net, it wouldn't have counted because the flag went up. Both teams was getting some good early chances before in the 12th minute. Urruti would score from Cascante to give Austin a 1-0 lead. In fact, I actually forgot to rate goal of the week with a question mark here, because this was just an absolute golazo from Maxi Urruti. And we know Maxi Urruti, he is a guy that, he's kind of one of the more polarized guys in MLS, where he will have these kind of performance where he score an out of this world kind of goal and then just kind of disappear for the next 10 games, and he kind of decided that this is the game where he's going to score that crazy goal, which means that, yeah, if you're an Austin fans, don't expect him to be active for the next 10 game. But despite this being a good goal and a goal that along with this one and then another one that was an incredible goal that was scored in this Minnesota versus Seattle game. This was not good defending, and also I think this is also so partially on Mark Sinkowski, where first of all the defending, just no closing down whatsoever, and then Mark Sinkowski kind of got caught off his lines a little bit, and I think Urruti kind of saw that, and he decided to trying to hit this volley, almost trying to chip that one over Mark Sinkowski's head, which is exactly what he did, and yeah. Austin was up 1-0 in this one, and Austin after that was kind of in complete control of this game, and I thought, yep, this could be one of those game again where the Quakes this season, with how bad they have been, no matter if they play at home or away, once they go down 1-0, they most of the time would just give up and let the other opposition completely dominate the game. Mark Sinkowski then denied, not Mark Sinkowski again. This is why I shouldn't be writing the board while I'm actually watching the game, but it was actually rain that he denied here, and I know that for sure because I took the notes here. Let me just double check. Yep, he denied rain in terms of this chance. Before Lopez did blaze it high from long range in the 28th minute, and the Quakes I thought started to kind of show signs of life, but it turns out that signs of life was actually false hope because Finley puts it wide from close range in the 42nd minute before Alex Ring should have scored the second goal for Austin as he went through on goal but just missed that one high, and that he's definitely going to be thinking about that one, and that is one that could have easily give Austin a commanding lead heading into the second half. But instead, it was 1-0 heading into the second half, though Austin did have a big opportunity to get a second goal when there was a penalty that was given to Austin after Pereira was brought down by you. And, I gotta say, I'm trying not to be too biased in terms of seeing that, but I feel like that was a little bit soft, and that, I feel like this is kind of an example of what I talked about earlier in that Columbus versus Nashville game, where there was a similar kind of incident like this that was not giving a penalty, and then in this incident it was given a penalty, and yeah, Austin had a chance to make it 2-0 from the spot, which Jerusi makes no mistake on that. And yeah, it just feels like this is going to be a game where it's going to be pretty much like every game where the Quakes are going to lose at home, and that, in some way it's kind of also good with the way that I've also said that, I don't really care if the Quakes lose, win, or draw anymore, with the way that it's pretty clear that this is a lost season for this team, and unless if there's not any changes with Almeida not leaving this team, or most importantly John Fisher not decide to sell the team, it's just going to be kind of a lost cause. Though it turns out, though, as the game wind down, the Quakes are making sure that that's not the case, because Zakaris, who came on in this game, he hits one straight to Stuver, and he was definitely a big impact in this game. Fagundes almost made it 3-0, but he struck the post from close range. But then in the 69th minute, another guy that also made a big impact coming off the bench, Buda, he was brought down here by Lima. So I guess Lima still loved the Quakes, because he kind of committed a double agent move here, decided to give a penalty to his former team to give them a lifeline, which Abovasi was able to take advantage of it from the spot. And yeah, the Quakes were down 2-1 in that one, and before I even had a chance to write, well, maybe there is a lifeline that the Quakes, of course, just gained it. They got the equalizer. It's K. Cow scoring from Gregush to tie the game up at 2 apiece. It was terrible defending from Austin. Like, on that set piece, you just simply cannot allow Cow to just kind of able to bring that one down, and basically hits it into the back net without clearing it. But nevertheless, the game was all tied up at 2 apiece. There was no doubt the momentum was with the Quakes up to that point. Montero almost made it 3-2, but he hits one straight to Stuver, and I even wrote, Austin is imploding again against the Quakes, and I wouldn't be surprised if they would actually give up that third goal. Calvo had a chance to make it 3-2, but he hits the post on the header before Stuver was able to deny it at Bovaseed, and on the second effort, Calvo just puts that one high. I think he was trying to do an acrobatic kind of way to put it in, but no luck this time, unlike what we saw in that game against Columbus. And in the end, despite the Quakes putting heavy pressure to mount an incredible comeback win, it did fall short in the end as both teams has to settle for a draw. And the shots in this game, 17 shots compared to 9 that Austin has, 11 shots on goal for the 4 that Austin has. Both teams had 4 shots off target, 2 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Austin has, and possession-wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession that Austin has in this game. And despite the incredible comeback that the Quakes has in this game, with the way that Vancouver, which I'll talk about later, getting a win against Sporting KC, Quakes are now officially at the bottom of the Western Conference. And honestly, I'm not even that surprised because that's kind of how this season has been in. And this is also kind of a game where it's going to be similar to what I said in the Columbus game, where it ideally isn't the best case scenario for the Quakes, because I'm pretty sure the front office is going to use this game and say, look, I know things are bad, but, at least we show some fight, and yet ignoring the fact that the real problem with this team is that we have a head coach that clearly doesn't want to be there, and also an owner that doesn't really want to spend any money to even get rid of the head coach that doesn't want to be here in the first place. But now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is Orlando versus LAFC. And I don't know if I said back in the preview that I think this could be a high-scoring affair, but if I did, I was right, because it turns out this was a high-scoring affair. Well, mostly in the first half, where that first half kind of had some feelings of the way that the FC Cincinnati versus Montreal game kind of went. Because in the first half, besides Orlando starting out strong and look to take the lead early, they thought they did in the 9th minute when Pato basically puts it into the back of net. His name is not Pato, which is, again, I don't know what that is supposed to be. But he basically scored here, but unfortunately the goal was disallowed for offside. Kara then puts it high from close range in the 11th minute, as it's pretty clear that Orlando is trying to get the opening goal. But then, unfortunately, they had a concerning factor in the 16th minute when Antonio Carlos has to be stretchered off of what apparently is a knee injury, and Schlegel had to replace him. And with the way that he kind of injured his knee awkwardly there with non-contact, yeah, that's usually not a good sign. Though, that being said, we kind of said the same thing when Mauricio Pereira had to be subbed off in that game against the Timbers, and he actually was back in this one. So it turns out it wasn't a serious injury, and I'm pretty sure Orlando fans will hope that that's going to be the same case with Antonio Carlos, because he's just such a big part to the defense. And it's also no wonder why they kind of had problems after he left with an injury in this one, because in the 24th minute, LAFC would take the lead. It's Rodriguez scoring for Arango and Vela to give LAFC a 1-0 lead. There was some pushing and shoving between both teams in the 30th minute, before in the 36th minute, Orlando would equalize. And it's Pato, who of course was denied in the 9th minute. He wouldn't be denied this time by the flag, as he scored from Kara and Pereira to tie the game up at 1 apiece. But before the fans have even any chances to celebrate their team getting the equalizer, they saw their team find themselves down to 1 immediately, because just 2 minutes later, Morelos would score to give LAFC the lead back. And yeah, there was some confusion at the back. I mean, I don't know which Orlando City defender that kind of was heading it back while Galese was coming off his lines, but there was definitely some miscommunication here, which allowed Morelos able to pounce on that mistake. And yeah, Orlando LAFC were up 2-1 in that game, but they wouldn't have that lead for long either, because just 7 minutes later, Matinho would score from Pereira and Urso to tie the game up at 2 apiece. And it's this time it's LAFC turn to have some bad defending, where they literally allowed João Matinho just kind of walk into the 18-yard box completely uncontested. And yeah, when you do that, you are basically asked to get score on, and it's not surprised that Orlando was able to capitalize on that. And yeah, as we head to halftime, it was all tied up at 2 apiece. And again, some vibe of that game between Cincinnati versus Montreal, because we did see a lot of goals in quick succession, especially near the end of the first half. Now, in the second half, LAFC will retake the lead, and it's Ilya, the one that scores to make it 3-2 in favor of LAFC. I would also say that could be a goal of the week with a question mark, because the way that Ilie basically hits this one, it was a magnificent goal. Though I don't think, if you compare it to this goal to the one that Urruti and then the one that I'll talk about in this game that was later scored from João Paulo, most likely that's going to be lose out. It is going to be in conversation for goal of the week, but nevertheless, it's still a great goal for Ilie, and he gave LAFC a lead once again. And it seems like LAFC realized that, yeah, they lead again, but they've seen this story twice already. They don't want to just play to lose and allow Orlando to trying to tie it. So they kind of started to draw back while Orlando was once again pressing to trying to get that third goal. Urso hits one straight to Crepeau before Kara hits one straight to Crepeau, 2 in the 77th minute. Michel just blasts one wide from close range as Orlando was really throwing the kitchen sink. Crepeau would absolutely rob Pato in the back post in the 89th minute. Like, Pato, he definitely want to have that one back with the way that he was that open, and Crepeau able to make an incredible save. Before Matinho hits one just high from the corner in the 90th minute. And then in the 4th minute of stoppage time, LAFC basically called it a game, as Mahala Oboku would score from Morello to make it 4-2 in favor of LAFC. And yeah, that of course was your final score in this game, as the shots in this one, 13 shots for the 11 that LAFC had, 4 shots on goal for the 5 that Orlando has, 7 shots off target for the 5 that LAFC had, 2 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Orlando has, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that LAFC has in this game. And yeah, for LAFC, remain unbeaten, and I think they also stretched their lead at the top of the Western Conference, because I know the team behind them, which is RSL, dropped points in the game against Colorado, which that is a game that I'll talk about in part 2 of the review. But for Orlando City, this is a very frustrating game, because I think this was probably the best that they look on the attack this season, but unfortunately they just weren't able to be more clinical compared to LAFC in this game. And also, as I mentioned, once Antonio Carlos went down for this team, you can clearly see how they really miss his presence in the defense, and that's when Orlando really started to kind of get cut open in the back, which is something we don't usually see. I mean, this Orlando City defense is considered one of the best in the league, but with the way that LAFC just kind of completely ripped them apart, is kind of a rare sight to see. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is Minnesota and the Seattle Sounders. And let me also fix the scoreline here, because the Loons actually did get a goal in this one, and they came close in terms of tying this game too. But overall, I think Seattle definitely deserve all 3 points into this game, to the dismay of me, because you know how much I do hate Seattle, and anytime when Minnesota play against the Sounders, I'm always up for it, and I tend to really care more compared to when the Loons play any other opponent. But yeah, I can't really complain the fact that the Sounders deserve all 3 points in this game, because this was definitely one of the worst game, if not the worst game, that Minnesota has played throughout this season. And it kind of all started with the starting 11 in this game, where it was pretty clear that whatever starting 11 that Adrian Heath decided to do, which was kind of a weird starting 11, where you even put like Danladi as the number 9, which I hope after this game we will never see Danladi in the starting 11 again, because as much as Danladi, I talk about how I always believe that he eventually will live up to his potential that he had a couple of years ago when the Loons drafted him number 1.